Well, hello everybody. Welcome to what is the last session of the day for day 2 before the closing keynote. You are at Real World Learning with Minecraft, so if that's where you intended to be, well done, stay put, because that will begin in a second. If that wasn't the session you intended joining, then you need to go back to your links collection and have a look and see if you can rejoin the right one. I'm hoping you want to be here for Real World Learning with Minecraft, which is about to be delivered by Stephen Reed. If you've been with me for any of the sessions that I've introduced over the last 2 days, you'll know that I'm having an absolute ball because I've had a chance to talk and listen to some of just the most incredible speakers, and Stephen falls in that category right up there. Stephen is Senior Consumer Engagement Project Manager at Microsoft, which is a title that doesn't really do justice to what he's about. Stephen is very much an advocate of both play as a powerful learning mechanism and also technology as a tool for learning. And I've been lucky enough to hear him talk about all those things quite often in the past. He's going to talk now about the real world learning with Minecraft, which is going to be a fantastic session. I would flag also that yesterday there was a session by Becky Reed around use of gaming in education and teaching and learning, and also a session that I delivered with Tracy, our school nurse, around developing safe behaviours and good habits with online gaming. So if you're watching any of this live or on catch up, please do check out those sessions as well as this one. But now over to Stephen. Thank you for being with us, Stephen.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Anthony. And you're right, my title doesn't do me justice, and I must have a word with Microsoft about that.
Exactly.
So welcome everyone. Thanks very much for joining me for real world learning with Minecraft. Anybody who knows me already, and I'm sure some of you do because I've been doing this for 11 years and I've been very lucky enough to work across 62 countries around the world using Minecraft as a tool for learning, among other things like virtual reality and augmented reality and photography, podcasting, animation, and so on. But games-based learning, and particularly Minecraft, sit at the core of everything I believe we should be doing in schools. And if you've heard me talk previously, you'll know that within that context sits the ability for us to be able to teach children real world, relevant, meaningful, applicable lessons, being able to bring children to the table of real world learning and help them understand how the world works in the safety and security of this digital space that is Minecraft. So for this session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a look at some of the ways in which we've been able to do that. Now, anybody who also follows me knows that I can talk about this for hours. So Anthony, I'm going to ask you one last time, how long do I have?
You've got until 15:15.
Excellent, good. That's plenty of time. Well, it's not really, but
not really.
It'll do. Okay, so let me start. First of all, I'm going to start with the basics. We're going to be using Minecraft Education Edition. Now, to use Minecraft in your classroom, you can use any version. So just because I'm showing you Education Edition doesn't mean to say that you then have to go and use that version. Although if you can, this is a phenomenal version specifically designed for education. But if you are running a summer school, or maybe your kids already have access to Bedrock Edition or Java, that's also fine as well. Very important to note that. However, stick with me on Education Edition. I'm going to show you how and why that's important. And then when I click on play and view my worlds, you'll see that we have, I've been doing this for 10 years, so I have hundreds and hundreds of lessons, thousands of lessons over hundreds of worlds. But what I want to focus on just now is the importance of being able to deliver real world learning. So what does that mean? For me, that means the ability to be able to teach children about things like renewable energy, curating your own museum, conservation, our history, biodiversity with our little frog world here, health. We're in the middle of a pandemic. How do we talk about these things? Because quite literally, we can't go outside. So how do we talk about those sorts of things? What about key events in history like Pompeii and the Mount Vesuvius eruption and so on? What about coal mines? And I've talked about renewable energy. What about the fight over moving to renewable energies from our fossil fuels? What about art or the world wars and so on? And so there's a whole range of topics that we might want to look at, even the refugee crisis, which we have here. We hear all this stuff in the news and the kids wonder about this sort of stuff. I hear questions all the time, particularly around the refugee crisis, and I'm able to say to them, Let's explore that in Minecraft. Let's have a look at that. And so I'm going to start with exactly that. I'm going to talk about the refugee crisis first before I go into some of the other ones. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we did this, how we tackled this. This has been a huge success. It's now being rolled out in 53 countries around the world with great success and amazing feedback from teachers and students, particularly around the idea of bringing children to the fore in what we call teaching the tough stuff. How do we talk to children about stuff that is not explicitly on our curriculum, that we may need to talk to them about, but don't quite know how to talk to them about? And that's okay. You know, as educators, it's okay not to know everything about what you're going to talk to your kids about, or everything about how you're going to talk to your kids about those subjects. How do we talk about refugees, or alcohol awareness, or sexual health, or bullying, or race relations, or religious and moral education, gender equality? How do we talk about those things when they're all over the news, and they're happening in our communities, but we're not able to necessarily engage them in schools? So what we've done is we've created a narrative using Minecraft that allows children to flow through that narrative, read it and play through it and experience it as if it was a story, but at key points relate it to the real world. This particular version actually comes with a resource. It's a OneNote resource, which has all of the questions and discussion points and learning objectives that you need as a teacher. And we start off significantly in what looks like a standard British town. Now, the reason we started this, it's gone way beyond that now, and it's now in more than 50 countries worldwide. But the reason we started this in a British sense was because we were working in British schools with British children. And one of the things we kept hearing around about 2015-16, we started this. One of the things we kept hearing was the rhetoric coming from kids that could only otherwise have been coming from the news. So we were hearing, I mean, I've heard an 11-year-old kid one day say, yeah, they come over here and they take our jobs. And I said, you're 11, you don't have a job. Yeah, well, they take everyone else's and my dad's. And suddenly I started to realize that while it is not my job to tell a child whether they should think or, you know, politically left or right, or they should vote one way when they're old enough or another, it is my job to inform them of how the world works and thinks and sees and is. And so after a huge amount of this kind of feedback from the teachers and particularly the students, I thought, we have to do something about this. So we developed this world. And it took 3 years to make, working with refugees, refugee charities, working with teachers, parents, students. We formed a huge group to put this together. And we started in the kids start in this little British town, and it's being bombed. There's helicopters, there's soldiers down here with tanks. The local road has been closed with a squished car underneath. Kids love stuff like that. There's holes in the local restaurants. And it just feels a bit Shaun of the Dead, to be honest. And but the kids immediately respond to this because they get out and they explore in section 1. But where they actually start is with Grandad. And Grandad is in this little house here. And Grandad, you'll see that it says, welcome to the Immersive Minds Refugee Minecraft Camp, Learning Zone 1, Leaving Home. So this section is all about leaving home. And if we right click on Grandad, this is what the kids see. This is an NPC built into the game where we can actually create real characters, or we can create avatars of real characters, who in this case happens to be generic Grandad. But actually we could have Beethoven in here. We could have Einstein in here. We could have heroes and villains of all sorts of historical narratives in here, and so on. And so this is a really nice little part of Education Edition that allows us to kind of expand on that real world learning. Oh, you're still here. Your parents have gone ahead to arrange safe passage for you, but haven't returned. I'm too old for the journey, so I'll stay here. This very first point hit one girl particular. She's like, she stayed with her granddad, and she was like, I couldn't leave my granddad. And I said, well, you're going to have to, you know, for the narrative, we're going to have to follow the story, and Grandad can't come with you. Well, she really felt empathy. It was an empathy bomb right there, just hit her. And she couldn't. She's like, I can't play. I'll just stay in the house. I'll just stay in the house. And that was such an interesting talking point. Grandad then does suggest that if you're going to leave, you have to take 3 items with you. And so we have these little mini games spread throughout. So in this case, you can take an unknown map, or a map and a compass, an apple, a birth certificate, some spare clothing, string, fishing rod, a feather, a family photograph, and some money. Diamonds and emeralds are money to kids in Minecraft. What would you like to take? So I'll give you a moment to have a think about that. A map, a compass, that'd be handy, right? An apple, you're going to get hungry on the way. A birth certificate, I don't even know where mine is. Clothing, could be handy. String and a fishing rod, I could catch food on the way. A feather, goodness knows what for. A family photograph, right? That's important, especially if you're leaving your family. And some money, probably going to be important on the way. You'd be amazed how many kids grab a fishing rod, string and a feather. And they're like, oh, just survive in the wild, I'll be fine. And I say to them, you sure you don't want to take your birth certificate? No. You sure you don't want clothes or money or a family photograph? No, none of that? Okay, all right. And off they go. Many kids do, many kids don't. And off they head. And it's at this point that they head out and they've been told to go meet John. And this is where we have a discussion about strangers. Who do you trust? You're a vulnerable person. Who do you trust? And they're starting to feel it. And in fact, we did a session recently with the British Red Cross and we had teachers on talking about it. And one of the teachers said that when he played this before doing it with his kids, he felt it. He felt the pressure. He felt the loneliness. He said he felt all of the immersive emotional feelings that he wanted his kids to feel throughout. And then he had second thoughts about doing that to them because he was like, I don't know if I want them to be this. Yes, question from Joe. You can use it on iPad, and yes, you do have the same features. So Education Edition works on iPads, and then the Education Edition isn't free to access. It's part of your Education 365, your Office 365 education logins. And so if you have that, I think A3 license or above, you're able to access Minecraft as part of that. Alternatively, you have to purchase Minecraft separately, and you can do that on a class-by-class basis. Then we talked to Sven. Sven's basically like, hey, you made it this far. If you choose to go back there, there's no turning back. There are dangers ahead. Do we trust someone in a uniform? And then and that's a whole bunch of other discussions come out about that. But then we head to Learning Zone 2, and I'm just going to whisk you through the rest real quick, because you've got the idea of the detail with which we go into now. But if they cross this piece here, there's a minefield. And if they die, they don't get to come back. They actually become journalists, where we use a camera. You see I've got a camera in now, and what we can do is we can go and take pictures, and they become journalists. They use a book to then write. Refugee Day 1, refugees. Some as young as 6 and 7 are leaving the town in droves. They can go to the next page, add another photograph of, say, where's my photograph? This one, and they can say, Day 3. We discovered the mines too late, and they can write a piece about that. And we actually have the children create journals as if they were journalists while following their peers who have survived. Here is an interesting exercise about who stays and who goes. There aren't enough boats. So who's going to get on the boats and who's going to stay and who's going to go? Again, from a British perspective, we had lots and lots of people were like, well, we have to get on the boat because we're British and we have British passports. Like, who wouldn't let us on the boat? And there was this real interesting cultural kind of mindset, like, we deserve this. Then they meet refugees and they talk to Stefan and Don and Malak about their journey. Ignore the llamas in the water. I've no idea why they're in there. And then they finally reach safe land. And it's during this safe space that they have to go into a refugee camp. And they discover that there are border guards and that countries have roles and there's refugee camps. And you can either wait to be processed, and you may or may not be processed, i.e. did you bring your birth certificate and your family photograph, or you can escape from a hole in the fence and you can go illegally into the country. But then there's the question of education, housing, employment, public services, food, healthcare and law. These are big questions, and we have characters within the town to talk to the children about, well, look, you can't just come into school. We don't know who you are. We can't accept any children. Or, okay, so a crime's been committed against you, but actually you're not supposed to be here. So can you access law? And so on. Over here we have designing temporary housing for human beings. What's legal? What's ethical? What's the right amount of space? And the children can build, and literally the children did build this. This is one girl's version, which we kept in the final piece using shipping containers, and we can also have the children build more here. We've also used Minecraft to the blocks to create data. So and this was a really interesting thing about real world learning for me. Very, very sobering moment for me when we showed that in 2015 in Greece, almost 1 million people crossed the Mediterranean. And the kids were like, oh, and these were 12, 13 and 14-year-old children that we were working with. And they were like, 1 million people crossed the Mediterranean trying to get into Europe. I said, yeah. In the next one, we see the deaths in the Mediterranean. And in 2015-16, we lost 4,000 to 5,000. And one boy was like, that's an awesome statistic. And I said to him, sorry, what? And he said, well, 1 million crossed and only 5,000 died. Like, that's tiny amount. And it was just this very sobering education moment for me when I realized that we have to be very, very careful with numbers and statistics and graphs. And that's not real world learning. That's numbers learning. That's mathematics. That's all we were doing here was mathematics. He was looking at percentage rates and thinking, that's awesome. Whereas we need to think about the human side, you know, the tragedy of a single life loss rather than 5,000 as a statistic. And I might be wrong, but I think it was Joseph Stalin said that if you kill one, it's a statistic. It's a tragedy. If you kill 1 million, it's a statistic. Can you repeat which license version included Minecraft? It's the A3 license. So A1, A3 and A5, if you have an A3 license or above, you will have Minecraft Education Edition as Office 365. And then finally, and this is where we really tie in to the real world, is the third human right of the International Convention for Human Rights. The third is that we all have the right to be safe and respected, safe and secure and respected. And as a result, we have a space here where the children, we meet Raoul Wallenberg, who was a Swedish man who rescued many, many, many Jews by getting them into Sweden during the Second World War. Kind of a Swedish Oskar Schindler being more famous on account of the movie, I imagine. Now, up until now, everywhere in Minecraft so far has been undamageable. We can't knock over signs. The children are purely discussing and playing mini games where we enable them to. But if we head inside here, the children can build, and they can build with any material. And what we ask them to do is to build what makes them feel safe. Many of them build their bedrooms and they build a model of their room, or they build their parents, or they build a teddy bear, or they build their bed, and so on. And in this big space, they can build a model of whatever they want. And then when we head outside and we head to Nugget, when we click on this box here, you'll see that we get a model of that box. And we can then just export to 3D print, and that will instantly be 3D printable. And then they kind of 3D print it out at a scale. The way we did it was they were really little small things, and inside they can see their little model teddy bear or their little model bed or whatever, because they export it afterwards. And then we put a little hole in it, drill a hole in it, stick it on a keyring, and they carry that everywhere as a reminder that every single human being on the planet has the right to be safe and no one can take that away from them. Helen, let me see your question. If we wanted to play Minecraft this way with our children on a different version, not Education Edition, can we still access the useful questions, lesson plans anywhere? Yes, you can. I will get you that link, I believe. Anthony, would you do me a quick favor and check immersiveminds.com and then look at the portfolio for the refugee crisis, please? immersiveminds.com and then check the portfolio for the refugee crisis. And then that link, that page link to the refugee crisis would be in there, and you can download the OneNote, and then from the OneNote you can use any other version to just create your own environment, etc. We will eventually, Immersive Minds will eventually be creating a version of this for other platforms. So that's the refugee crisis, which is a really big real world subject, right? This is the kind of stuff that's really tough to teach. And we've had homeschoolers come to us and say, oh my God, thank you for this. This is incredible. We've had people come to us from charities. We've had parents, regular parents saying, not homeschooling parents saying, I want my kids to be able to do this in school. How do I get the school to do it? So then we kind of promote it to the school and so on. And so have a think about how you might want to use that. But what if we did something else like renewable energy? Let me show you. There's all these big sort of things, and I'm a big believer in getting children to real world places. If we can do school trips, I mean, one of the big disappointments about our education system globally, but particularly I can say this from someone in the UK, is the rate at which over the last decade we have killed the school trip, because it costs money and there's health and safety and the more we can get children out into the world and seeing things and appreciating things, the better. And so, for example, hydro dams or wind farms, or we can talk about renewable energy all we like, but if a child can't see it and experience it and think about it and reflect on it and wonder at it and hear the wind turbines, that whoa, whoa, whoa sound that they make, it's incredible. And really think, I'm here on a super windy day and this wind farm is blowing and that turbine's turning, and somewhere inside there's a generator which is then putting the kettle on in the house or putting the lights on in the house. And so what we've done is we created a series of what we call toy box worlds, which were designed to help children grasp those concepts. And so this one is in a giant leather briefcase, if you like, and it's like it's been opened up and renewable energy models have come out. It's not finished yet. We haven't done solar and we haven't done wind farms, but this will be available free to the public when it's finished. And as you can see here, there's a model of a hydro dam. So we've got the dam, we have the reservoir, we have the power station, which is here, and then we have the control system over here. And inside the power station, there's the giant, because I remember visiting one myself and seeing this big thing and wondering, and it smelled funny. I remember the smell. The one I visited was in Pitlochry in Scotland, and it smelled funny, and it was just the machinery and the turbines turning and the metal on metal, and so on. And I remember asking somebody there what it did, and he said, "Oh, that's the generator." And I remember thinking, what's a generator? I mean, that answer didn't help me. But if you head down here, we've also got E. And right now the tide is in, but we could use wave power. So what I'm going to do is this is a machine that we built at the back, which is just a timer. That's all this is a timer. So if I now switch this and this, you'll see that the tracks are going to move to the activate, and I'm going to leave them there. And then what's going to happen is I go around this side, you'll see that the waves are now coming in, and then the wave will now go out. And what we end up with is wave power. And if this wave power, which is this machine here, works, i.e. generates electricity, you'll see them all pumping there, then what happens is we get energy in this bulb. So we're building up a battery. What we've done is we've created, with kids, we've created a battery system. And the more wave power we get, the more the battery builds up. And eventually that light will light up. Now, it's just a light, but imagine it was a hotel, or imagine it was a small town. And we knew that this entire small town was powered by wave technology. So here comes the wave again. So the wave's coming in, and then the wave's going to go out. And over time, I'll come back to this bulb shortly. And when we come back to this bulb, it will be switched on because we have enough energy. If we stop the wave power, we will eventually run out. So we can create batteries and the conditions for energy. You'll also notice that this bulb is out. This is the bulb that comes from the generator in the dam. Let me show you how this one works. Again, big concepts that children find it very difficult to grasp. So quite often I've literally had teachers say to me, surely you can't use Minecraft to teach the concepts of water pressure in a turbine. And I say, but we can. So here we have a reservoir. Now, the way Minecraft works, water doesn't go up or down. It doesn't work that way in terms of gravity. There's another llama, they're getting around. But what we want to do is go into here and we want to teach the conditions for which it will fill up. And it fills up when it rains. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it rain. Now, here's what happens. When it rains, it will eventually, that won't fill up, but in our minds it will, because what we're teaching the children is that a full reservoir means that we have enough water. If we have enough water, we have water pressure. If we have water pressure, we can turn a turbine. And the way I prove that is with a polystyrene cup, and I just fill it up, or a little cardboard cup or whatever, and I fill it up, and we prick a tiny hole in it. It doesn't really work. And then we prick a slightly larger hole in it, we might get a drip, drip, drip. But when we fill it all the way up with water, it pours out that hole down the bottom. And the kids immediately are like, oh, that's because the weight of the water was so great that it pushed through the hole, right? We get the idea. So it's that real world learning. And you'll notice here that these holes are off. These holes are not working. And the reason for that is because we don't have overspill. Right now, it's a nice day. We haven't had a huge amount of rainfall this summer, and therefore we don't have overspill, and so we don't have high water pressure. But if I make it rain, weather, rain, what will happen is a little cauldron will appear here, and it's now raining. And if we leave it long enough, I'm just going to go in and speed up the process, but the little cauldron appeared. I'm going to use a bottle of water just to speed this up. But if we fill that up with water, you'll see that we get a measurement. It recognizes that there's water. And if we fill it up entirely, you'll see that we have an overspill. Suddenly the water comes pouring out and we have an overspill. And if we have an overspill, then we must be able to turn a turbine. So we turn the turbine on, and lo and behold, we have light. This is a working light. This is a not working light. So suddenly we have light because we have energy, because we have water. And now you can see here that this light's working. So this one's working because we have enough wave energy. Let me switch the water off, the weather off, sorry, clear. Weather clear. And when the sun goes away, we end up with no light. Sorry, when the sun comes out, we end up with no light. Because even though this isn't entirely accurate, what we're trying to show children is that conceptually we can understand how renewable energies work. Here's another thing. If I switch this timer off, so this time I'm going to go and I'm just going to switch this and this. This just means that I switch on to the non-active track. This is going to switch off the wave power. And then if we head up to the top, what's happening now is our battery is gradually running down. And over time, that light will go out. What we plant, there we go, so the light's gone out. So we automatically, there's no wave energy, so there's no power. And so with Minecraft, it doesn't have to be about fighting dragons or making fancy castles. As parents and as teachers, we can relate what we're trying to teach to Minecraft and have it built as part of that system. Over here, we're going to have a wind farm, which will work in much the same way. And over here, we're going to have a solar farm, which works in the same way. And then we're also going to have bio. I think on this little square platform here, there's going to be a bio system, which is great because the kids are then encouraged to go and knock down the trees to create the bio, which they then put in and it burns, which is fantastic. But then the question is, did they think about renewable energy? So did they, when they chop down all the trees, did they plant more saplings? Did they create crops of trees and so on? And what does that mean for the land? So that's our renewable energy model in there. Look out for that. That's going to be available shortly from, again, Immersive Minds. But we can also do things, and the reason I quote Immersive Minds work, there is some phenomenal stuff out there from other people. It's just that's the company I used to own, and so this is my work. If I go to something like this, though, this is a project that I've been working with a company in the United States called Phygital Labs. And Phygital Labs also do some incredible stuff, which is, in this case, health. How do we look at things that are complicated, like health, like malaria, or dirty water and dysentery, or malnutrition? Malnutrition is a really difficult one. I've talked to kids about that and they're like, oh, that's when you're hungry. And I say, well, no, it's different from hunger. And they can't quite grasp what that looks like. And so what we've done with this is in the village of Afia, we have created mosquitoes. And you can, and there's people can do this for you. Like if you're a teacher wondering, well, how do I get a mosquito? First of all, look for maps like this. Alternatively, speak to your kids. Trust me, someone will be able to make you someone in your community can make you a mosquito in Minecraft. It's a skill kids have. And what we can do is we can talk to people like Akinyi, and Akinyi says, welcome to AFIA. Today we learn about the community resources that support us as we grow and learn. And you can go and look at links and things. McKenna says, you know, today we're learning about community resources that support us to grow and learn. Here's another exercise. Before I was born, when I was small, now, and so on. And there's boards for them to fill out. Oh, look at this food lying around. That's hardly malnourishment. There we go.
Stephen, just to flag that the final keynote is at 15:15, so actually we've got till 10:10.
Yep, no problem, no problem. Thank you. If we speak to Kiryu says, do you see those mosquitoes? They're everywhere and they keep biting villagers. And when we look up, there's a mosquito up there. And every time we click on him, we get another one. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to click to game mode game mode 0, which makes me a villager. And you'll see that the mosquito's coming down and he's going to sting me. And you'll see now that I'm ill. I have yellow hearts and I can get in and I can close my mosquito net, but I'm still ill. And another one of those things that we can do is we also get blind and we also get very dizzy. So there's 3 separate things that can happen. And this is when you catch malaria. And so what we need to do, I'm just going to go back to the game mode where it won't affect me, is find out how to heal malaria. The other thing we can do is we can create things like dirty water. So if we head down to this little village here and drink from this, where is it? There we go. I'm going to clear my inventory actually. Then go into here and get a glass. There we are, glass bottle. And if we get a glass bottle, you'll see it says a bottle of dirty water. And if I drink that, I will get ill. But if I want to get clean water, I'm going to have to follow the red path all the way out to the blue zone to that river. And here's the thing. That's what the girls do, because the girls go get water while the boys go to school. So suddenly we're talking to children about gender inequality and why boys are more educated in many African countries than the girls are, because the girls spend their day going to get water so they can get clean water and not dirty water, and so on. We also have, whoops, that's a sign I've just bumped into. If we head over to Chakula, we can do, you'll see that there's some really unhappy people wandering around here. The children of Chakula are unhappy. And that's because if I give them some bread, and if I give them only bread, you'll see that they get even sadder because they've got nothing to eat but bread. This little guy's happy. Let's feed him bread. See how, so we'll give him some bread. He's going to get sadder and smaller and weaker until eventually he's sad too, because all they've got to eat is bread. So it's not about hunger, it's about malnutrition. If we go to something like, maybe let's get an apple. Let's get a carrot, and let's get what else are we going to get? That'll do. We'll stick to bread, apple and carrot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this chap an apple. He feels better already. A carrot and some bread, maybe another apple and another carrot, and he's happy. So if we can give them a varied diet, if we can create nutritious food for them, and we can show them how to plant the crops and get those different foods, we can make the people in our villages happy. And then the idea, just before I finish up for questions and answers, the idea is to go to Stawi, where you go to a hospital and you make the medicine and you learn how the medicine is made, and you sew the nets for windows and doors, and you can go back to the village of Afia and you can protect the people. You can work out here how to dig wells and to make fresh water for the people of Maji, and in Chakula you learn farming techniques that allow you to make different things, different types of food. And so these are big topics, but they're not the sort of topics that we should be frightened of. I'm going to finish with a historical topic, one that I'm really passionate about. We've also got biodiversity in our gardens, so we literally create a giant garden, and we then have the children make the biodiversity that goes into it. So we say to the children, what do we need? We need worms, right? We need frogs. The frogs need to eat something. So there's our frogs there, big giant frogs, because we're the size of a fly. But we need bees, we need flies, we need insects, we need grasshoppers, we need and we need birds. So up in that tree there, the kids have put a bird's nest and stuff. And so we've just created a giant American yard, It's modelled on an American yard with a white picket fence and a baseball bat. And we create biodiversity lessons to have the children think about the food chain and the biodiversity of their own backyard. And then we move that modelling to the Canadian Rockies or the Eastern Cape of South Africa, and we look at the same models. In this one, we are the Rangers. This is free online in the library of Minecraft Education Edition itself. In this one, you are investigating animal trafficking, and you're in a giant shipping yard, and pangolin are being trafficked, and you have to find where they are. And you follow various clues, and you interview various people, and then eventually you use sniffer dogs to find out where the pangolin are being trafficked from, because pangolin are seriously endangered. And so we use Minecraft to talk about endangered species, not just by talking about it, but by actively having the children be the police investigating how they're getting into the ports and how they're getting out of countries like China and other Asian countries and so on. But finally, a historical example before we finish, because I know we've got 4 minutes left. Actually, art. Let's do art. Art's really nice. What about art? What about teaching people? Like, who was John Constable? Who was Michelangelo? Who was P.A. Mondrian? I did art as a degree, and I couldn't care for the art history that I was taught in school. But what we can do is we can actually visit a giant museum where, when we head into Hall 1, we actually visit the masters, and we can go and see the famous paintings, and we can find out who did them and where they were from. So this is Primavera, Sandro Botticelli, 1480, and we can compare the years, and we can answer questions. We've got a whole book in here of questions. But then what we can do is we can head through here to a 1 to 17,000 scale replica of the Sistine Chapel, where the children then paint the roof with blocks. They create pixel art and they paint the roof because they are Michelangelo, so they become historical people. Or if we head into, I know it's a bit jumpy just because of the paintings. The paintings take up a lot of memory. But if we head into Hall 3, we can meet P.A. Mondrian, who was the surrealist, and he made paintings like this. And then what we can do is we can take the children inside one of those paintings. So they're inside a giant P.A. Mondrian, where they can take a real canvas in real life and they can pick their scene and then say that is their scene. They can paint, that's my P.A. Mondrian. Meanwhile, another child is going to paint that as the P.A. Mondrian, and another child, that's going to be their P.A. Mondrian. And so we can show what it's like to be an artist and see the world through an artist's eyes inside a 3D painting. And then finally, we're going to head off and we're going to see Hall 2. We're going to meet Claude Monet. And it's in here that we meet Claude Monet and we see some of his most beautiful work, like Woman with Parasol and Child and Sunset, the cliff, sunset and so on, even his own portrait. And then when we go outside, it turns out if we play with scale, the whole time we've been in there, we've actually just been a fly inside Claude Monet's actual studio. And this is a model of what we believe his actual studio looked like. And so we can see his cap, and we can see his paintbrushes and his easels and his wedding ring and his letter and his cup of coffee and his tulips and his portraits and his rug, and we can explore. And the museum was just a model on the floor, and the P.A. Mondrian is in the cupboard, and the Sistine Chapel is in the wardrobe. And over here, we can have the children, a whole class set of easels for the children to paint their own stuff. So I'm going to finish there. That's Anthony, if you would pop in fidgetallabs.com. You can find some of those worlds at fidgetallabs.com. Otherwise, many of these worlds can be found in Minecraft Education Edition themselves. So if you have Minecraft Education Edition and you go to View Library, inside Lessons, you'll find Science, We Are the Rangers, and there's 5 worlds in there. So Meet the Rangers, Running with Rhinos, Detecting Wildlife Crime, Humans and Elephants, and Conservation Science. They're all in there. So they're already built into Minecraft Education Edition. So a couple of minutes left if we have any questions. Otherwise, we're ready to go and see the amazing Sparvelous Mark Sparvel for the final showdown.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much, Kyriakos. Kyriakos also, if it's who I'm thinking he does phenomenal Minecraft work with his students and his community. Thanks, Kyriakos.
Stephen, thank you so much. The comments of people also texting and emailing me and things throughout have been really positive and very, very appreciative, which is lovely to be able to pass on.
Yeah, brilliant.
And the sheer scale of some of what you've shown us has just been mind-blowing. It's been incredible.
Well, sorry,
Paul.
just one thing. Just keep in mind, though, anybody who's still watching, keep in mind that although I've showed you the stuff, and some of you are at the beginner stage thinking, how am I meant to do that? First of all, the stuff's out there for you to use already. Secondly, have your kids do it. You don't need to be the expert. This is the children's realm. That's the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you making time for us and fitting this in.
Not at all.
Busy, so yeah, much appreciated.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So if you're attending live, then you've got a couple of minutes now. At 2:15, Mark Sparvel will be starting the closing keynote of the two-day event. If you're watching on catch-up, obviously you have all the time in the world to move between the sessions that you'd like to, but I would suggest definitely making it to that one. Thanks for attending. Bye.